start with the first tip. The first tip. Okay. So let's see. Let's start at the very beginning. So this first group will be for people that maybe are about to end up in a situation involuntarily, meaning you're about to be homeless because of some reason. Usually you're being evicted or you've moved to a new city, something happened. Who knows? I don't know why, but you just end up, and for a lot of people nowadays, that's a problem. Like, it's happening to a lot of people, all kinds of people. Maybe you lost your job, maybe you pissed off your landlord, maybe you didn't pay your rent on time, you were late, I don't know. Maybe they raised your rent, maybe they're gonna shut your building down under the guise to upgrade it for luxury apartment buildings. Who knows, I don't know. But unfortunately for me, I've been through this situation many times, and so I have some advice for you. I wish someone had told me this, but it's kind of like there's such a stigma about it that like no one wants to talk about it, and when it's happening to you, you don't want to tell people, right? So where to begin? Let's see. Okay, forget that. I'm not gonna start there. No, we're gonna start there. I'm gonna call this what to do if you're about to be homeless. First, number one thing, understand that it's not all your fault and it's nothing to be ashamed of, okay? 2, understand that you need to have an attitude of empowerment, okay? And 3, if you're renting, you've been kind of indoctrinated to be a renter, right? Now, obviously, some people, they're doing well, whatever. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about people that like have no choice or feel they have no choice. I just had a friend today. He just got married and he feels compelled that he has to rent an apartment because you don't look like a man if you're living with your mom. And sure, I totally get that, but he's going to take a hit. He's going to take I'm thinking they're probably doing a 1-bedroom apartment in LA, that's $2,000 a month. That's a $24,000 a year hit. For whatever reason, if you're about to find yourself in a situation, like let's say, whatever, here's the thing. Should you fight your landlord? The answer is no. Don't fight them. I mean, I've known people who fought them. They're gonna win. The fabric of this country is on their side, right? And sure, a lot of cities have laws and legal funds and stuff. So one, you can get legal help. There's tons of every city, every major city has like a non-profit legal center that will help you. And you should talk to them to see what your rights are. I've known people that have been tricked into signing things. Like, don't sign anything. I just had a friend up in Seattle where his landlord tricked him into signing something under duress and pressure, and they make verbal like, oh yeah, if you just sign this, we'll work it out. He basically signed all his rights away. In some states like Seattle, if you have a lease, you have a ton of rights as a leasee. That happened to me once and I didn't realize I had those rights and I actually signed them away. So the thing is like if you take it to court, in most places, if you take it to court, it's gonna show up on your record and you won't be able to rent again because people will say, oh, you were in an eviction proceeding. You're like, no, we worked it out. It's like, no, but it says here that you were, so you're done. Now people caught on to that, and so they made it where only if you lose the case does it show up on your record, which is still sucky. Like, let's say that for whatever reason you lose the case, that shouldn't ban you from renting ever again for 7 years or 10 years. Boy, they have a racket going here, man. They have a ton of power. They can hire lawyers, whatever. I'm not talking about mom and pops. I'm talking about corporations, which is most of the situations, management companies, whatever. I say, if you're about, like, let's say you're in a situation where you're behind and you got a 3-day notice, that's just the legal beginning of their starting to evict you. So, There's still time, you kind of have time to work that out, but they have to start that process, right? And here's the thing, I'm not gonna get into all the legalese. There's tons of websites and stuff on that about like how to fight it, what does this notice mean and all that. Here's a more philosophical point. Let's say you have $2,000, and let's say for whatever reason this process has begun, and you're like, well dang, should I pay my last $2,000 and stay, or what? Like, here's what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to spend your last $2,000 in this situation, and then like you get evicted anyway and you have no money, right? And that's what happens. People feel like they have to, because they're so scared, right? It's like, oh, they dig up $2,000, whatever, and then it's literally like their last money. And this is how people end up living on the streets in their cars. First, that's not gonna happen. You're gonna end up living with friends and relatives. Eventually, they're gonna get tired of you. You're gonna borrow all kinds of money. Eventually, you're gonna go through that. You're gonna go through your savings. You're gonna go through your credit cards. You're gonna end up in a hotel. You're gonna think, well, I'll do a hotel, and then eventually I'll get ahead of the game, and it's just gonna be a downward spiral. And I know because I've been there. And what I would say is that, like, if it's that bad already, like you only have 30 days, and let's say you lost your job, and you're not even gonna have, like, maybe you can scramble the money for that next month just to buy yourself time, but you're gonna be in the same situation the next month. I would say cut your losses. If you have $2,000, go buy a vehicle. Go buy the kind of vehicle you can sleep in, ideally an RV. Like, that's what you should do. And that may seem radical. Some people might be thinking like, no, they should fight to stay in their place, blah, 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 blah. It just depends. Like, if you're just behind and you have your job, then sure. But if it's just gonna delay the inevitable, then just, cut your losses and get a vehicle as soon as possible. The thing is, if you have a vehicle that you and your family can sleep in, it takes the edge off. You can still look for a place. You can still maybe even stay where you are. But in worst case, here's the thing. You want your worst case scenario to be some kind of vehicle, ideally an RV. If not an RV, then a van. If not a van, then a truck or SUV. And if worst case, a car, like a coupe car, which doesn't have seats or a living area. We'll get into that in a minute, but RVs are cheap. There's no reason you can't get an RV. You can get an RV for $100. Like, so just go get just figure out your budget. Your budget $100, $500, $1,000, $2,000. Like, make your budget and go on Craigslist. Set the range for 200 miles, and then just keep looking, and then eventually you're gonna find something. And then go buy it. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'll get into that later in another tip, but don't get into the situation where you're just so fearful and desperate that you spend your last penny. I've done that. It's bad. Like, don't do that. So what else? Here's another tip. If you find yourself in a situation where you need to borrow money, you need to ask for help, the thing is, people can't process it. People can't deal with it. Like, it's better to just, call up your friends or family or whoever and just say, hey, can I borrow some money? I can pay you back at this time. Make it a realistic time, maybe 6 months. Be realistic about it. Don't tell them about the emergency. I know it's counterintuitive. You think, oh, well, if I tell them it's an emergency, they're more likely to help me. The opposite happens. First of all, most people just, unless they've been in that situation, they can't process it. It just scares them. And when they get scared, they're just gonna blank out on you. The other half are like, oh, you're a loser now? Oh, I don't want to have nothing to do with you. There's that whole group. So you'll find out real quick who your friends are and are not. It's amazing, honestly. And so just do that. Like, and the other thing is, ask for what you need. Like, so if you need $500, don't ask for $50. Ask for $500. Have a plan on how you're gonna pay this person back. Just whatever. Even if it's a year later, just have a plan. Say, hey, I need to borrow $500. I can pay you $100 a month or $50 a month for da-da-da. I'm willing to put it in writing, whatever. Like, just, that's it. Don't tell them, say I'm having a little bit of, I just need to borrow some money. Don't tell them like what's going on. Because from my experience in those situations, it just scares people and then they don't help you. So that's a tip. In fact, unless it's a really close friend that you know, don't tell anyone about that you're being evicted. Don't. See, the thing is, certain words scare people. It's subconscious, like saying homeless, that scares people. Saying evicted, that scares people. And the reason this is because whenever you speak to someone and you say certain words, it triggers images in their mind. So let's say they just watched a movie about homeless people and you say, oh, I don't want to be homeless, you need to help me. As soon as you say the word homeless, they see that movie in their mind and it just freaks them out. It's like, oh. It's like, so don't like say key words like that. So if you need money, just say I need some money or I want to borrow some money, like that. What else? I would say, yeah, if you're about to be evicted, just, try to work it out so that it's not on your record. From a landlord's perspective, they just want you out of there so they can get someone in there who can bring in the cash flow. They don't care about you. You're just a money teat. Like, that's all they're thinking. So if you cooperate with them, they're gonna be happy. They're like, oh great, he's gonna move out, I can get someone else in there. Like, that's how they're thinking. So if you cooperate with them, your goal is to like not get this thing on your record and have enough time. So maybe you could work a deal like, okay, look, I need 30 days. I need 6 weeks. I'm gonna pay half and I'm gonna be out in 6 weeks, something, because you wanna buy yourself some time. That's the goal, because you're not gonna win in court. Like, it's like impossible. It's set up that way. So what, it's just renting. You can always rent another place, like just move, right? Now, on this note, if you have what you want, obviously you're coming down because something happened bad, like your business failed, you lost your job, you got sick, whatever. You're coming down, right? You need a soft place to land. Now, I had a business once 30 years ago and it failed miserably. And I had my mom, because I was a kid, I had my mom to fall on. Like I could crash at her place, literally. Everyone doesn't have that. Especially if you're older, you don't have that. I would say this, if you do have it, if there's any place you can go, like a parent or something, where you can basically stay rent-free for like 3 months so you can get back on your feet, that's what you need. So that may not be possible. Again, if you have a vehicle that, like an RV, it makes that whole thing a lot easier, because you can be like, hey, can I just, stay, near your house or in your yard or whatever with my RV, or park there and I'll be in my RV. But, like people are much more amenable to do that arrangement. But, I would say, like, unless it's someone that you really know and trust and know that they can do that, like, just assume that it ain't gonna happen and you're on your own. Like, or save that for when you really need it, for a real emergency. Although this is a real emergency, I would say save those things. Like, don't exhaust all your options, because that's what happens. People get scared and they exhaust all their options. First they exhaust all their money, then they start selling stuff to get money. That is the worst thing. Like, don't do that. Maybe do that. Minimal, get small, like get rid of all the crap, But I guess what I'm saying is, don't sell all your assets and have nothing. And then you end up losing anyway and have to go out anyway. And then you get to this place where you're just borrowing money. I just had a friend, it's a long story, but they ended up in this situation where basically they were in a hotel, living day to day, having to come up with the money for the hotel every single day. I've been there too. It's a horrible place to be in. You don't want to be that. Again, if you have a vehicle, ideally an RV, then that takes the edge off of that, doesn't it? You can still do a hotel, but worst case, you can always stay in an RV. What else? Here's the other thing I want to say. And this is going to seem crazy, but you look, we can do it now or we can do it later. It's like, so the typical reaction when someone's about to be evicted and has to move out of wherever they are and they can't afford to get a new place. Can anyone guess? Hotel. I'll just go to a hotel and work 2 jobs to pay it. Here's the thing I'm gonna tell you right now. Don't do that. do not move to a hotel. Because what will happen is you'll get sucked into that world and you'll just think that I'll just work harder and harder. Here's a movie right here. Here's the link. Here's a little picture of the movie. It's about this lady and her daughter that lived in a hotel in Florida, the Florida Project. It's a great example of that, and just tons of people living like that. It's very hard. People in hotels are not interested in you. They just want tourists to come, pay them money, and move on. Same for Airbnb, it's very difficult. The problem is short-term rentals, like maybe you find a place, it's a short-term, like, here it is. There's a whole chain of these like long-term rental hotels. Those are okay, but they'll wear you down psychologically. Like it's such a small space, you think, I'll stay in there until things get better. No, don't do it. I've done it, don't do it. I've done all these scenarios, don't do it. Like, avoid hotels like the plague. Like, think this, even if you're paying, like most places, like I think Value America, whatever it's called, it's like $50 a night. Nowadays it's probably $75 a night with all the fees and stuff. I mean, times 10 is what, $750, which is like 1,400, what, 21 something, over 2,000. I don't have my phone, so my point is just do the math. 75 times is what you're paying. You're probably paying double what you paid in rent before. You couldn't afford that. What makes you think you can afford a hotel? Like, just don't do it. It's horrible. Like, just don't. You'll be comfortable for like 3 days and then like you'll be stressed out about it. So you think, what do? I told you, get a vehicle. Get the best vehicle you can get for your budget. Like, just get one. Because the worst thing you want to do is end up in this situation with no vehicle. It's way harder. So while you have the time, the money, the resources, meaning like a place, get a vehicle that you can live in, the best one you can. And that's what I'm about. So like, that's what I'm gonna say.